Hey, we're going to drill down into these very quickly and try and get them out there midday so it's more timely onto what's going on. Um, you don't need to watch every single tick, but there are certain days where it does pay to see what's going on. I got a lot of messages about Bitcoin. I'm not going to get into the fundamentals of it. I mean, I'm just going to give a disclosure. I own it. Um, I'm very comfortable with where it could go and what could happen. So, I think that looking at it, I think you have to be aware of a couple things, right? And I'm just going to use GBTC here. First off, if you're trading this, realize it always trades at a premium. So a lot of people buy Bitcoin and then actually short this as their hedge. So just realize that that's going on. I did that in 2017 because the premium got huge. Um, But what we're seeing here is we're just seeing a break and then here. Now, we talked about these patterns, right? And again, I'm just pointing this out. This chart's going to look very similar to Bitcoin. So it's just easier to run this one. But I'm getting a ton of questions on this. Okay, you have this, which is awful, right? Open is the high, low. I mean, it doesn't get more bearish of a move. You have this, right? This is where we tried to rally right to that level. And what happened? We failed. And now we are below the open and we're coming to here. So there's no support here. Your next support level is 31.75. So you're going to have to understand that that can happen. And real support is really not till $24. So, the 24 level, which would be, you could say theoretically, it's probably $20,000, $21,000 Bitcoin. So if you're not willing to go for this ride, you should have had a better plan in place when you saw these exhaustion moves upward. At this point, theoretically, just looking at it, you're setting up for a third crow, right? I mean, unless something happens, we're setting up for another one of these. And we talked about these three crow patterns, which means we're going lower. Doesn't mean it's over. I haven't moved any of it, but I'm in at the right price, and I'm just leaving Bitcoin alone. That's it. Let's just run through these so that they're timely. So we have a double top going on here in Apple, and I would be very cautious right now with any of these kinds of stocks. Just be aware of seeing stuff like this, right? Doesn't mean that it doesn't break through again. I mean, we still have this uptrend, but just be aware that this happened. We went to the high and we failed, and we're coming into January's earnings. I mean, Amazon, I think that politically, I really don't understand their motive for what they did. We'll just use this. Can't use that. That looks awful. Um, I don't agree with what they did. I'm just going to say it. I don't really care who agrees with me, and I really don't want to get into political debate. Business-wise, it was an awful move for what their AWS department did. Just awful. I don't know why. I don't know the full reason they did it, but just an awful decision by whoever decided that. Now, you can see the peaks, and this could be heading to roll NH. We should know what this one is because I said it, but let's just put that up there. So this is what's going on, tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. We're through Christmas, we're through the shopping season. You just need to be very careful here. It would be nothing to see this come down to this 2,900 level. So just watch it and be aware of those levels. CELH, we've been in since $35. We couldn't have acted better today. I mean, we really couldn't have. Like, let me bring this over so you can see what we're talking about. We trimmed down here when we were up 20%. We just left the runners on. This could have been a bearish engulfing. The day's not over, but it's not, right? We're in the meat of the move. And I don't know where this closes. It could turn into a hammer. We're just looking midday. But this is what we do know. We do know it hit the 5-day and bounced off it like cat in a hot tin roof, or whatever other analogy you want to give. So that's telling us that. Now, if you really want to get into it and drill down into it, right, you can see what's transpired today, right? you can see this bar and how we're just staying in this range and nothing's changed. And really you're setting up a little wedge to possibly push, but you can see where support and resistance levels are. So there's really nothing to do here. Stay long, be happy. There's really nothing to do. This is why it's so important to know your support and resistance levels. Let's run through this. So I got a couple on this one, so I'm running it. This is not overly exciting. Clove. I don't see anything that is making me feel that I need to be involved here. You know, we have this large base going on here, but we really don't see any major development, right? Like we don't really see it deciding to do anything. So it needs to make a decision. I mean, right now we're just batting around between 14.16 and 17.20. So until this resolves itself, just let it bounce around and maybe these rays form and we get an actionable position. Until then, I would just not do anything. Let's go to CRSR and hold on 1 second. This was one that we were in before in the newsletter, did well with, and then based upon this move, we just got out. And I think we're still out higher than where we are. This is definitely moving. I have a starter position in it. I like the action. The volume, we're going to have to see how it comes through. We really need to close above this level, right? So, and there's really, it's not exact over there, so we're not going to use it. But this 44 is really what we're looking for. I didn't really want to wait for that. These expanding bars let me know what was going on. We broke this level, which is not a huge level, but if you take a look, you can see, hold on, let me just get to it. You can see this, right? So you can see this 40.33 level, and when we broke that, so from here, 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 and then boom, and then we break it. So once that transpired, that was a key for me to get involved. And right now my stop's loose, but it's the low of the day. So I have a lot of risk here, but I think that we're going to test this 44 level. And I can watch that. And if I want to reduce my risk, people keep asking me about risk, and I'm talking fast just to get this out there. People keep talking to me about risk and how to monitor it. It is personal, but I can give guidelines to it. What I would state is you can look at shorter term time frames and then make a decision predicated upon that. Well, one very simple place to put a stop is exactly, that's not it. So I will get the system down. So this is exactly where you can put one of your stops if you're so inclined. So this 15-minute, how we broke from here up, so you could literally put a stop here. And if you break this, most likely you're going to try and test somewhere down here. Doesn't mean it doesn't hold and then go higher. But if you break this level where these 15-minute is, chances are it's going to roll. Now, right now, we're just setting up a flag. I mean, here's your flagpole, and we're just setting up for higher, and this level's being respected. So there's really nothing to do here. DFRY, I mean, I got asked to run this one, so I'm running it. There is very little volume going on here. Technically, like looking at this, I would just avoid it, but let's get into it since you asked, because you probably have a position. Most people that ask have a position. I mean, you might find support at 5.5, but every single bar is just met with selling. So this is something that I would just avoid. I mean, I've got the 5, the 8, and the 21-day rolling, so I don't know why I would want to be involved in this with everything else out there that is moving. I would just stay clear of this until we got above this level. But even then, I mean, there's no volume. No one's paying attention to this. Unless I knew something or felt that I knew something, I would just be out of this. So Excel, and you have a lot of overhead resistance. But what you're seeing is, and what's transpired is, look how we broke this. And you can see the other one here. I can clone it. Let's just keep moving. So you can see how it respected, broke above this falling wedge, respected it, consolidated, and then what happened? Right? Boom, boom. And then we consolidated, and then it gave us the next confirmation above all these moving averages, and then we exploded up. At this level, I would not be adding to it. I mean, you can see, right? I mean, you can see this, right? I mean, that's clear as day. You ran right in the resistance. And I have this overhead, so like a 24 and a quarter, we still, I don't know why it's doing that, but at 24 and a quarter, we still have all this up here. So do I really want to be involved for $2? Not now. This was a great trade. Not now, there's too much risk. I need to get through this. Frankly, at this point, what I would be waiting for is, if I wanted to be involved, is that. I'd be waiting for that to break, because that's an enormous base, and when that breaks, it's going to go. So this would be helpful if I threw this out there. And let's go to Facebook. Again, I don't want to get into the politics of this, but what I think that they did was probably what we will refer to as the, some kind of event is coming regulatory-wise for these companies. And that would be concerning to me. But overall, 2060-19 is support. You have a lot of overhead resistance now. I mean, we're rolling. This is interesting because I play FNGU, and this is in there. But looking at this, we're rolling. I mean, you can see this huge H, right? So we're at a support level. Sometimes we do boomerang back, and you could boomerang back over this. So look for this to move over that line if you're thinking about playing it long. Due to regulatory risk, I avoid the stock and trade FNGU. There's just too much risk for me in being long some of these social media companies. So there's just better pastures out there. FNGU, some people were asking about it today. I mean, 282 was completely respected. Moving averages so far have been respected. Now we're rejecting at 290.20, 294.20. Just stay in there. I don't see a reason to do anything here. Let the market tell you what it's going to do. I don't think we're going to break these lows. And we're probably going to move the stop up to this one so that we're not rolling to here. So, but that'll be in the newsletter. And that's FNGU. Fuel cell. So fuel cell, I mean, this is just wedge, breaks, flag, breaks, and now we have this pattern. You're a little extended here. I mean, I think anyone can see that, but let's just get into the key levels, right? So it would be, oh, that's interesting, pulled right to the low. So we're respecting this 1391. So if I was long this, which I am not long, I would watch this level because that's where the 5-day is, and we're holding it. So I'd watch this level. I would not be adding to this here. It's too overextended. But I would watch this. If we break this, you're probably going to 11.5. Not, technically doesn't mean it's broken. That's just what's going to happen. Google, same thing. I'm not going to get into the whole conversation again. But you're seeing the big tech ones really have an overhang. And that doesn't mean they're going to roll down to here and roll to the 14 level. Is it possible? Absolutely. But what it does mean is that when we start setting these up, I mean, you can see this, right? I mean, we're failing. So we need to break above this and go higher. We bought this breakout, it failed, and we wound up blowing it out, taking a loss. So, and that was in the newsletter. But I don't see any need to be involved in this one. Got a couple of people asking me about this today, GoPro. So I like stocks like this, and I like these kinds of moves. What's interesting is this, right? So we're above this peak, which lets us know that we are now in control. I mean, this is out a year and a half ago. So we're now in control. The bulls are now in control, not the bears. And we're hitting certain key levels. So here's one, right? And you can just see, we just stopped right at it. So what we're looking for is what we need is a push through that. And when we get that push, we should go higher. I mean, let's see here. I mean, I don't know the mechanics of this and what the big move is. This is the weekly on GoPro, and trying to move faster. But this is the weekly. This action's very interesting. So, I mean, your first level on GoPro, you're really looking at 1189. You clear that, we're going to here, 17. So this has a lot of potential, and your risk is not that much, right? I mean, funny how that works, right? So, you really want to see it. I would want to see it clear 950, and then I'd become interested in it. But this can go 950 to here. It's worth it. I mean, it's 20%. My risk would be a lot less than that. So it's definitely worth it. And then I have this opportunity for 17 if it keeps moving. So I don't know fundamentally why this is going, but it looks to me like it's going to go. So Mara, and I'm just talking technically. That's all we're talking about here. So on the daily, nothing's broken here. I mean, we didn't even get to the lows of Thursday. So everybody just needs to kind of relax. I would expect this to do this and then to trade around. And could this have been a blow off top? Absolutely. So right now, I don't think that you do anything with it. If you're long, you stay long. But like we talked about this weekly, I think over the weekend or last week. I mean, we went exactly to the point. I mean, exactly to it and rejected. So if you're looking to add, I would not add until it gets over this 28.12. You get over this 28.12, it can go to 40. There's no resistance here. Very little. I mean, look at the volume. So right now, we just want to see this thing consolidate. And also understand something. These are weekly moving averages. So look at how they're respecting and turning and crossing. That doesn't change. It's like trying to turn a Titanic. It takes a long time for that to move. So let's get into NNDM. And this is the weekly. Let's just get into this. So I like this level. We broke above it. We're still above it as of now. I like the action earlier a lot better. I'm still long this. I'm probably down about 10 cents in it right now. I got to see how it closes. I expected more of a push than we've gotten. It respected these averages, and I expected a more of a boomerang action. And this is NNDM. So I didn't get what I was looking for. I'll have to reevaluate. But this is what we see going on, right? You see this little curl. And this is a big level for us, this $9, 937 level. And I showed you why recently on the weekly. We were right around here, and you can see it. It's just not clearing it, right? Well, we're a little bit above it now. So it looks like the level here is 9.25. So that should take us to 13. So I'll be in the stock and I'll hold on to it. NVAX. these are really, I hate to say it this way, but these are really trade the news. Like, drugs are out. We're getting the side effects, and we all know how that goes. So, you can see. I mean, boom, 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 right? So you can see what's going on here. We need to hold this level, and this level goes all the way back to here. So you need to hold 105. And that's right around where the 50-day moving average is. And we really have not closed over that, or closed under that, rather. So that's your key level, 105. So watch that level, and we'll go from there. And I believe we did this one already. We already did this one. And before I get into that, let's just get into this. So we've been talking about this ad nauseum, battery day. I put it out in the newsletter Thursday. I mean, we got in at 48, 64. I added into this. I have not moved my position at all. I've done nothing. I have a strong belief that this is going to continue. It's my opinion that this may become like the Baba of China for their EV maker. I mean, it really seems like they're behind it. And I don't really care about the politics of it. I care about whether or not I make money on my position. So what I see here is solid action. Would I like to see it have continued to push? Of course. I'm fine here. This is all the selling I'm going to get. This is it. This is the selling I'm going to get. I have a gap here followed by another gap. I mean, these kinds of moves, you want to see a move like this? Go back and look at what Tesla, when they started, look at it daily. When Tesla went from 40 to 100 the first time, and you will see moves like this. You'll see moves like this in Microsoft in the early or mid 90s, right? And what we saw was that just exploded. When you have huge gaps up like that, demand is just insane. So I know that pattern. I've seen it for 20 years. I'm not selling a share. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying that I think that it can go a lot higher. Right now, we will be moving the stops up. The stops will move to probably 57.20 in the newsletter, which would lock in, no less than a 20% gain in less than a week. So, but until that happens, I'm just honoring my process. I'm not doing this. I was looking at this earlier on NIO. But I was looking at this earlier, the 15-minute, and going, oh, well, you have these 3 spikes, and it's failing. It's being sold every time. And you can overanalyze. And our cost is so cheap now. I mean, at one point today, we were up 20 points. We were up 50%. So, there's nothing for us to do here. Would I add here? I wouldn't add because I don't like these 3 bars. And I don't like how we broke the wick. And I don't like how we haven't closed over that. Would I add? No. Would I consider adding? I would consider adding when it breaks over this, if you wanted to add. But you're taking a lot of risk, and you're going to have to use a 15-minute chart to establish where that risk is. And I have my system and where it is in my head, and you should have yours as well. So that's that. NVTA is just broken and sold down. We had a low of the day, tighten it up. Target was 65. This was previously, it just didn't work. I mean, what we're seeing now is, you're seeing the rally through. We hit support. I mean, that's very interesting, right? So we hit support here, but now we have this too. So that's kind of frustrating. Bonk, bonk, bonk. But when we hit this level, we're holding it. And that's important. So I don't want to be involved in this right now because there's better positions out there, but look at how it's respecting that level. So it could continue to do that, but there's just better positions out there. So Planter, PLTR, okay? We still have this. We still have this. We went to this level and rejected. We went to the high and rejected and sold down, and we're rejecting at the 21 day. I had a small position in this. I made a little money, and I just got out of the way. It needs to confirm at this point. This action should have been a lot stronger today off the rip, and just wasn't. So the day trade really was buying it off the open right around here, and I really don't want to get into this level of specifics, but here we go. You can see this pattern, the fake H, right, off the rip. And then the thing about these patterns is they're duplicatable in every minute chart that exists. So here you go, boom, boom. Oh, it's going to go to 0, and then what happens? So this is that boomerang effect we talk about. So the money that you could have made in this, you made on the day. If you're looking at buying it longer term and holding it, I understand their contracts and what they're going to do. Just avoid until we get confirmation. There's too much going on here. Technically, you really shouldn't even buy it until you're above 29.5, but people like to be early. I'd like to be as early as possible as long as I'm right, but just watch it. It needs to act a little better. Piton went right to the top of the falling wedge. It's sitting there. If you are interested in buying this, it's got to break this. Other than that, you're wasting your time. It could bounce around in here for a while. So there's really nothing else to do there. Your support level is 139.75. If you're in this, you break that level, you need to go. Riot. So this is a pattern I try not to talk about too much because you can really get hit hard. But when you have a channel like this and you pop out of that channel like we did here, like this was the low, and you can see how we failed it here. Sorry. This would be helpful, wouldn't it? So when we see this, it lets us know that we could be going parabolic. And I don't like to talk about it because it fails as much as it works. And I don't want people to get lured into looking for just this because there's more to it than I'm explaining. But you can see it did exactly what we thought it would do based upon that, right? So you go down here, here's your low. It just happens to be this trend line. And then what does it do? Right? Goes up 8-9 points. You're up 40%, 2 days. What's it do today? Comes to here. What's the low? Right around here. So I drew this line months ago. So you can just see why it's so important to have these lines in. What do you do with it now? That's up to you. You could buy it right around here, and you could use this level as your stop. And what's fascinating is you also have here, and the open, right? So you have the two opens and the high of this bar that it's respecting. So you could use 2084 as your stop. This stock's just a monster. And it was one I thought of putting in back here when it broke. I think we might have took a shot at it somewhere in the newsletter. I have to go back. But you can see, isn't that interesting? It goes all the way back to here. So you can see how once we broke above that line, right? We didn't really even stay low here with it. But once we broke that line, we were gone. And now you can just see consolidation, right? Consolidation, boom. Falling wedge, boom. Learn your patterns. So what we're doing here, look, the low of the day is this level. This is going to here. So, and I should say this about target prices, they're just ideas. None of us have any idea what we're looking at, but you can't establish risk unless you understand where the return would be. And so that's why we come out with that number. And that's how they're identified. It doesn't mean that when someone says that this is the target price that they're right. They're just saying that this is what they think. And that goes for the newsletter or even when I talk here. But realistically, when you clear levels like this, and I would say this is the right shoulder, not here. But when you clear levels like this, you're going to have a little resistance at 88.5. But this is a $100 stock. It just the way everything's forming, it just looks amazing. So this is something that somebody could get in and have a very reasonable stop of like 86.38. You know, you break 88.50. If you break below this, you blow out of it and look for another, look to get back into it. 2 points to make 10. I'll do that all day long. So I was shown this one at $7 and did not get involved. And I think that's why I have this line here. My alert went off and I just had too many positions. So you can see here what's going on and how we're breaking out, right? And this has got to be, I must have done a weekly, yeah. So on the weekly, 1082, I mean, you know, here we beat it by, you know, some pennies. Here we're running right into it. Until this breaks 1082, I would not touch it. And then you can use that level as your support and resistance, and if it breaks it, you can get out of the way. With smaller types of stocks, consider having tighter stops because they're smaller stocks for a reason. And you can just see what's going on here. Even I drilled down on the weekly there, and I know I'm talking fast because I'm trying to get through this because it still has to process and get in, and I want it to be timely. So you can see this. I drilled down on this from the weekly to the 15-minute. So yeah, don't tell me this doesn't work. It works. I mean, we have not had one close above that line. I don't want to be in this until I see that. Other than that, I'm just wasting time and money. Twitter, in the 15-minute, you had a little day trade here. There's a little day trade pattern there. I don't want to get into it, but I should do a video on it. I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole for a myriad of reasons, but what you can see is this, right? So you can see it did not break its downward trend. If you want to be long it, be long it. So, you know, this was a failed breakout on Twitter. You can see that we rallied up to that failed breakout where the 21 crosses the 8 and the 5, and what's that tell you? It tells you that this is going to roll. It's telling you that this is going to roll, right? I mean, it's telegraphing what's going to happen. So, you know, where's the trade? The trade would be as if, you know, the next day that it comes into the gap and then pushes, and then you're going to here. There's too much risk for me. 45 to 48 to make 53, 1 to 1, zero interest. Yalla, of course it's going to move now because we no longer have a position in it. So this one is doing exactly what we needed to do, right? And I will not be putting it back in the newsletter. I have too many other things developing. But what you can see here is it's going to work. I mean, it's setting up to work. We close here. All we have to do is close above this line, and then this falling wedge is negated, right? And then we just push. And then we would use this level, which you can see where that level is, as your stop. So there is definitely, you know, there's definitely a trade there. I mean, you hit here, you hit here, here, here. So that's definitely a point of contention. And breaking above it is nice. I prefer when they converge. It's much more of a powerful move. So finally, Zoom, I stated to avoid it this weekend. I stand behind that. Just get out of the way. It's acting awful. And you know, supports 325 and 314. If you're in it and you're in it at like $80, of course you hold it, but to enter new positions here, it's not worth it. So that's it. Hope you found it helpful. Consider subscribing to the channel because I'm going to be doing more of these. I'm getting a lot of requests for them, and they must be helpful. And we'll go from there. And also put on notifications so it lets you know. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Let's get back to it.